So imagine for a second that you're the most powerful person on the entire planet. But you're up against an enemy your armies can't touch and your laws are completely useless against. Well, that was the reality for one Roman emperor. He had to face a devastating plague, not with brute force, but with an ancient philosophy. Let's dig into how he did it. Okay, so let's meet our main character, Marcus Aurelius. He was the Roman emperor from 161 to 180 AD. You might know him as the philosopher king, right? The last of the five good emperors. He was presiding over this empire that just seemed absolutely unstoppable. But his time on the throne was defined by a crisis that was about to test the very foundations of his world. You have to understand, during this time, the Roman Empire was at its absolute peak. This was the golden age. They called it the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, and it had brought stability for generations. We're talking about a population of 75 million people. The empire was this incredible hub of trade, culture, and power. It really felt like it was going to last forever. But as you can probably guess, an invisible threat was about to bring the whole thing to its knees. And just like that, an unseen enemy arrived. The crazy part? It was carried by the very soldiers who were supposed to be defending the empire. This became known as the Antonine Plague, and it was a pandemic that would push Roman society right to the brink of total collapse. This plague raged for 15 long years. A physician named Galen, who was there at the time, documented its terrifying symptoms: fever, horrible black rashes, internal bleeding. Modern scholars look at his descriptions and they think it was probably a massive outbreak of smallpox or maybe measles, a disease that Roman population had zero experience with, which means they had absolutely no immunity. The devastation was just immense. Out of a population of 75 million, modern estimates put the death tolls somewhere between 5 and 10 million people. In the places that were hit the hardest, a third of the entire population just vanished. And if you got infected, well, your chances of survival were slim. The historian Cassius Dio wrote that the fatality rate was around 25%. Just think about that. You had a 1 in 4 chance of surviving this thing once you got it. A terrifying roll of the dice. At its absolute peak, right in the heart of the empire, the plague was killing up to 2,000 people in the city of Rome every single day. The capital of the world was literally turning into a mass grave. And this thing just kept going. It started in the East in 1650 AD and hit Rome within a year. It was so bad, it even killed Marcus's co-emperor, Lucius Verus. For 15 years, this was the grim, day-to-day reality of the Roman world. So as his empire is being consumed by total chaos and fear, what could the emperor possibly do? He couldn't stop the disease with an army, but he realized he could master his own mind. In the face of this huge external collapse, he turned inward. While he was out on military campaigns, surrounded by war and sickness, Marcus started a daily practice. Every morning, he would mentally get himself ready for the day ahead. He'd remind himself that, look, he couldn't control what happened, but he could always control how he reacted to it. And the thing is, these writings were never meant for us to read. The original Greek title basically means things for himself. It wasn't a diary of what happened each day. No, it was more like a personal instruction manual for living, a set of mental exercises to keep himself sane. Today, of course, we know it as meditations. The philosophy he was practicing was Stoicism. Now, for Marcus, this wasn't some abstract academic theory. It was an art of living, a set of really practical tools designed to build inner resilience and find peace, no matter what kind of chaos was happening on the outside. All right, so how exactly did this philosophy help a leader get through a crisis of this magnitude? Let's look at the direct connection between the chaos of the plague and the Stoic response. It's fascinating, really. For every external horror the plague threw at him, Stoicism offered an internal solution. You've got widespread death? The Stoic response is to remember death is just a natural process. Society is collapsing? Okay, then focus only on what you can actually control, which is your own character. Overwhelming fear? The answer is to accept what fate brings. The philosophy was basically a direct antidote to the crisis. A huge idea for Marcus was that the universe isn't just random chaos. He saw it as a single, interconnected living thing. And from that point of view, personal suffering, even the suffering of an entire empire, is part of a much larger purposeful design.
I know, it's a challenging idea, but it's one that can offer some pretty profound meaning when you're facing a tragedy. Marcus used this brilliant analogy. He compared fate to a doctor's prescription. A patient accepts a really painful treatment from Asclepius, the god of healing, because they trust it's for their own good. He argued we should do the same with life's hardships, even a plague. We should accept it as a harsh but maybe necessary prescription from a rational universe.
And what about death itself? Marcus faced it head-on with the stark clarity. He wrote that just like it's not evil for a coffin to be built, it's not evil for it to be broken apart. For him, death wasn't some great tragedy. It was just a natural transformation, part of the universe's endless cycle of creation and dissolution.
Marcus Aurelius died in 180 AD, and it's very possible he was a victim of the plague himself. The pandemic did eventually fade away, but it left behind a world that was forever changed. And the legacy of the emperor's private little notebook, well, that was just getting started.
Now, historians still debate the plague's long-term impact. Some argue it was the blow from which the ancient world never recovered, basically marking the beginning of the end for Rome. Others are a little more skeptical and think its role, while big, might be a bit overstated. But what's for sure is that it was a profound shock to the system.
But the legacy of his internal response, that is totally undisputed. That private notebook, forged in the fires of a crisis, somehow survived. For almost 2,000 years, it has guided leaders, artists, and just everyday people. And in our own chaotic times, Meditations has found a whole new, massive audience, from soldiers to CEOs, all of them looking for what Marcus was looking for, a framework for resilience when the world feels like it's falling apart.
And that brings us to the final, and I think most important question. Marcus Aurelius faced this existential crisis with a practical philosophy that he worked on every single day. So it kind of forces us to ask ourselves, when we face our own modern challenges and all our uncertainties, what are our tools? What's our philosophy for living?